In this video, we will be I'll be discussing all of the lessons that we have learned in the second quarter of my grade 12. Uh, so basically, grade 12 is the last year of high school in the Philippines, and yeah, basically in 1 year there are 4 quarters. This is basically the last quarter of the first semester. The first semester consists of 2 quarters, first and second, and the second semester consists of uh, also two, which are third and fourth quarter. So yeah, just to give you a brief uh, info regarding the Philippine curriculum in the sense that we're talking about the school year. So okay, so plant structure, we have this region is described to be the shoot system. This is the root system. It's basically everything of a plant that's underneath the surface of the soil. So you have a taproot and lateral branch roots. So for the root, there are two types. We have taproot root system and fibrous root system. So for taproot, it's associated with anchor and lateral root. For fibrous, we have adventitious and root hair. It doesn't really make sense for someone who hasn't got into this who hasn't been familiar to these ideas yet, but yeah, I'm not sure. This isn't really that important in the scope of what we learned. So moving on, there are basically five kinds of modified roots: prop, pneumatophores, storage, buttress, and aerial. So each one has a unique function. Uh, Although in our class we did discuss each one, I'm not sure if it would be appropriate to add more to the reviewer that I've already finished like 3 months back. This was made back in January 3. But I only had the opportunity and guts to make the video about it, not just now. So yeah, but what I can say is you can research for the rest. Buttress, this is basically the kinds of roots you find in massive trees. They basically specialize in the support of a tree. So that's why they're big. Like, yeah. It is intended to support trees of uh, large sizes. And for pneumatophores, literally from the prefix neo, it's associated with breathing, the respiratory system. Uh, Plants are able to breathe in a way. That's what I remember. Um, for storage, I don't know, just it has something to do with storage. Aerial, aerial roots. So, in this kind, usually the roots are suspended, uh, mid-air. Of course, they're still connected to the plant, which is connected to the soil. But yeah, the rest would be a reason why it's called aerial in the first place. For prop, I'm not sure about that. I'm brutally honest right now. Okay, so we have stems. We have four. Do we have four? Yeah. So we have rhizomes, bulbs, stolons, and tubers. Um, I know that a potato is a tuber. That's everything that I remember. Bulbs, maybe one is an onion. Wait. Yeah. I admit the onions might be rhizomes, but I don't think so. Perhaps it's a bulb. But yeah, just research about it. Basically, these are the four types of stems. For the leaves, we have uh, five, I suppose. Storage leaves, reproductive leaves, bracts, tendrils, and thorns. Uh, Leaves are basically the main photosynthetic organ As you all know, plants need photosynthesis. They perform photosynthesis in order to produce its own food. They're autotrophs, basically. Plants are autotrophs. And leaves basically consist of a blade, stalk, and petiole. Again, this is, well, not really again. This is just minor information. Although, yeah, it's still um, recommended for those who want to perfect an exam to memorize everything. But it's usually not the best resort, not the most practical. Anyways, so for monocots, we have parallel veins, and for eudicots, we have branched veins. Uh, I do have another list, another reviewer on that. I believe it's in my notes. Okay, has to be here. Okay, I was supposed to make another video discussing this. Yeah, I will make a video that's supposed to focus on how I prepared for my DCAT. Hopefully, I passed the exam, the entrance exam. Basically, the key to admission to De La Salle University. Where is that? And what are we supposed to look for again? Monocots and dicots. I hope it actually is here. There you go, found it. So, what I mean is, for there are four specific details that differentiate monocot from dicot. So, for monocots, uh, there is just one cotyledon. Cotyledon, basically the meaning of that is the seed leaf. And for dicot, of course, literally from the prefix di, it means two. So, two cotyledons. In terms of the leaf and veins, um, for monocot, they have parallel veins. And in terms of the leaf, it's long and narrow. On the contrary, for dicot, the veins are netted and the leaf is broad. And in terms of the vascular bundles, for monocot, it's scattered, and for dicot, it basically forms a ring. And for the root system, for monocots, it's fibrous, and for dicots, it is tapped. I remember there's a picture in the internet that focuses solely on differentiating monocots from dicots. So I believe dicots can also be called eudicots, or perhaps not, because for dicot it says that the veins are netted, but here for eudicots they're branched veins. So I suppose they're different. Yeah. Anyways. Okay, about this, so there are three kinds of leaves in terms of its usual number. So yeah, we have simple leaf, compound leaf, and doubly compound leaf. So this is basically for simple leaf, there's just one massive leaf. For compound, I believe this is peppermint. Is it? I'm not sure, but it looks like peppermint. But yeah, basically there are more than one, definitely, but not as many as the leaves that are found in a doubly compound specimen. And yeah, for doubly compound, it has the most leaves. I believe one example is the macahiya. It's a Filipino plant. I'm not sure if it's exclusively native to the Philippines, but basically, if you touch it, uh, it reacts. It tries to stay away from your finger or any material that you use to touch it, touch its leaves. So yeah. Um, Plant tissue system. I think there is three. Yeah. So there is the dermal tissue system, the vascular tissue system, and the ground tissue system. These, by the way, are um, study resources from my teacher. Uh, I could have settled with making a reviewer purely out of handwriting, but it takes a lot of time. The month of January was the most pressuring month so far this year. I could say inarguably the most pressuring month, uh, even even back in 2023. Anyways, uh, transport in plants. There are two kinds, uh, which are important. Both are important. Both occur in a plant. So for translocation, this is the transport of sugar, and the main passageway, or basically in an easier in layman's terms, basically, the phloem is what you describe uh, for its basically train station uh, or the railway system. It could be synonymous to the idea that blood vessels are responsible for transporting blood through to and from the heart, depending if it's a vein or a capillary. But yeah, just think that phloem and xylem are basically blood vessels of a plant. So phloem, uh, it uh, it basically um, opens the provision to the transport of sugars, and for xylem, uh, it does the same thing but for water. And yeah, the process of the transport of water in plants is called transpiration. So yeah, my reviewer is based on the Edpuzzle video, on an Edpuzzle video. I'm not sure what um, specific video that is, but yeah. Autotrophs, plants make their own sugars through photosynthesis. Uh, Back to what I said earlier, photosynthesis, basically plants make their own food, hence the name autotrophs. And yeah, this happens in leaves. That's why um, earlier it was mentioned that leaves serve as the main photosynthetic organ. So okay, the translocation is achieved by the cells of the phloem, and for transpiration, it's achieved by the cells of the xylem. So in their own places, the cells constitute a tube, or perhaps just more than one tube, definitely. And again, for translocation, the purpose is to transport sugars, and for transpiration, the purpose is to transport water. And how do you describe translocation? Um, so basically, the pores in between the cells enable the movement of cell sap. What is a cell sap? It's basically composed of water and sugar. It's a liquid mix of water and sugar. Uh, so sugars made in the leaves can be transported through cell sap. So the direction of translocation is up and down. Um, yeah, so unlike transpiration, whose direction is only supposed to be up, there's no going down. That's one detail you have to keep in mind. So for transpiration, on the contrary, uh, we already know these. How do you describe transpiration? So basically, the xylem is composed of dead cells. So xylem cells are basically dead. there are no ends between them, so it's very hollow, unlike what's constituted in the phloem tubes associated with translocation. So these dead cells, they form one long hollow tube. This is strengthened by lignin. I'm not sure if this is an enzyme or something, but yeah, basically it's a strong material, strong enough for its purpose in the concerning context. So basically, transpiration transports water, not just water, mineral ions coming from the roots. It makes sense to think that transpiration is only a one-way passage. So let's say this is the a part of the plant. So these are the roots, and yeah, basically, as we water this, as we water parts of the soil, um, where a plant is established, water is absorbed from the roots to, I think this is the stem. So the movement is upwards only. And there's there will come a part eventually where at the end, yeah, literally transpiration will happen. Like legit, um, water vapor will come out at coming from the top of the plant, and water, um, it's basically a chain reaction. um, there will be the release of water vapor from above and the absorption of water from below the soil. So yeah, that will be properly discussed later. But for now, where are we? So continuing on, uses of sugar upon delivery. So this is related to translocation. So first, it's used. It's either used in two ways. So one is direct use for energy, and one is for storage. So it's easy to memorize and understand. And for transpiration, again, as stated earlier, the movement of water is upwards. It's driven by the evaporation of water from the leaves. So this is what I was trying to say a while ago. So eventually, water at this part of the plant, which is at the very top, uh, it would eventually turn into vapor, or it would evaporate. So yeah, I believe this part is now particularly called the stomata of the leaves. Okay, and yeah, it's you can describe the phenomenon with the term chain reaction, since uh, basically a chain of molecules, they generate an upward movement. So this is called the transpiration stream. As water from below gets absorbed, water from above at the highest point, which is at the stomata of the leaves, they have a high chance of being evaporated. And yeah, the stomata, uh, the stomata needs to remain open in order to let in CO2. And this is only possible if there's sunlight. So there is a reason why during nighttime, uh, especially for young plants, they're not able to continue their growth. That's because their stomata is closed. So yeah, basically, there is a steady stream of H2O flowing upwards. Therefore, transpiration is basically the evaporation of water from the stomata in the leaves. Stomata is located in the leaves. So, you might ask how regarding the rate of transpiration, it can vary, and it's influenced by four main factors. So yes, first is light intensity. So yeah, connected to what I said earlier. So if it's nighttime, the stomata is closed and there is a very low rate of transpiration. But if it's daytime, the Li or light intensity is high, the photosynthesis, the rate of photosynthesis is also high. And yeah, naturally, the stomata is also open. So the entry of CO2 is made possible. And yeah, at the same time, the rate of transpiration is also high. So for temperature, the higher the temperature, the higher the rate of transpiration. So water particles, if they have more energy, they're more likely to diffuse. Okay, what I wrote, um, my own reviewer is kind of confusing, but I think it makes sense. Um, so if the temperature is higher, then yeah, it's kind of related to daytime. Usually during daytime, the temperature is higher, so the rate of transpiration should also be higher, right? When did we ever witness a daytime with a lower temperature compared to nighttime? Nighttime is usually um, the time when temperature is at its lowest on average in a typical day, or yeah, I'm not sure how to describe it, but in a typical day or night. Okay, so the third factor is airflow. So the higher the airflow, or basically the windier it is, the higher the concentration gradient and the higher the rate of transpiration. So basically, if it's windy, a concentration gradient is established. This concentration gradient will serve an important role in a very important role in influencing or defining the rate of transpiration. It is very related to humidity. In humidity, the higher the humidity or the more humid air we have, the lower the concentration gradient and the lower the rate of transpiration. What does that mean? So let's go back first to airflow. Um, the windier it is, of course, basically water vapor from outside, basically from the environment of the plant, is relatively low, like the vapor level. And uh, compared to what's inside the plant, the xylem, uh, the gradient, that's the naturally established gradient from inside the xylem, uh, is very different from what's outside. So naturally, if there's a lot of water inside, there is a higher chance of transpiration or the evaporation of water through the stomata of the plant. So it's somehow related. Think about it this way: it's the same kind of thing. If you imagine a person uh, in a really hot environment, um, or basically yeah, in a windy environment, and you tend to perspire more because it's pretty pretty hot. So yeah, let's go to humidity. So basically, humidity is the measure of how much water vapor there is in the air. So yeah, the more humid, the hotter it is, the lower the concentration gradient, and it's synonymous with a decreased rate of transpiration. Okay, yes. Um, think about humidity this way. So, for instance, we have a plant, right? Let's say a flower. Uh, so it's hot, and naturally, the plant has to conserve its water. It doesn't know um, when the hot temperature will cease and um, when normal temperatures could return. Like basically normal temperatures pertaining to uh, enabling them to have a normal rate of transpiration. But in this case, it's really hot, so plants need to conserve water. That's the reason why the stomata is usually closed, even if it's daylight. That's because they're trying to conserve water. They're trying to close the stomata, even if it sacrifices their need of CO2. We all know that CO2 is a reactant in photosynthesis that helps them produce their own food, basically sugar. Okay, I think my explanation earlier regarding airflow is kind of misleading, and I recognize that. Let me have the chance to explain it better this time. So for airflow, uh, yeah, let's use the same plant. Let's use a flower. So let's say it's windy, right? So there is, since it is not given a scenario where it has to conserve water, transpiration, the rate of transpiration increases. So the stomata is kept open because there is an abundance of water vapor. It does basically, you can also say this reason. I suppose it's a lot better. It's not hot, it's not humid. So, uh, yeah, if it's windy, then the humidity is low. So, what's the reason for a plant to close its stomata and decrease its rate of transpiration when the weather is windy? When there's no need to um, close the stomata because it's not hot. So, yeah, that's it. The concentration of H2O inside of the leaf is greater than the concentration of H2O outside of the leaf. So, yeah, this is what I was trying to explain earlier. I'm glad I wrote it down so that it's better, um, it's more understandable. So, yeah, the concentration of water inside versus outside, um, it usually contrasts. So, from there, a gradient is formed. There's a natural tendency for the diffusion of H2O out of the leaf. And yeah, that's the main point of transpiration. All right, so what are the inside factors that affect the upward movement of H2O? Again, we already know that transpiration, the movement of water is only upwards. There is no downwards. Sorry. So there are five basically. We have root hair structure, root pressure, adhesion and cohesion, capillary action, and transpiration. So let's start with root hair structure. So root hairs take water from soil through the process of osmosis. I'm not sure if this is active or passive transport. I, Unfortunately, I kind of forgot it already. But yeah, uh, better to memorize. Root pressure. Pressure is caused by the active distribution of water into the root xylem. Yeah, I want to explain more about number one. Root hairs take water from soil. So we already know this. So roots from below, they get water coming from the soil through osmosis. So yeah, basically the new idea here is the process is made possible through osmosis. For root pressure, the active distribution of water into the root xylem. So yeah, this constitutes pressure. Okay, basically there's pressure. Uh, Adhesion and cohesion. For cohesion, basically water sticks to itself. So basically, we all know that H2O is like this. Uh, basically the particles, the atoms of H2O hydrogen and oxygen. The three of them stick together. For adhesion, there is a tendency for water to adhere to the inner lining of the xylem. So let's say this is the xylem. Um, Basically, the water molecules adhere to the walls, or basically the inner lining. And yeah, the narrower the xylem, the higher the pressure, basically the higher the root pressure, and the better chance for them to exhibit adhesion. Yeah, that's it. Um, for number four, we have capillary action. So yeah, that's what I just said. The more narrow the silent is, the higher the water capillarity is. So I'm not sure about the meaning of capillarity, but I believe literally from the word capillary. If you think about it, this is the smallest kind of blood vessels in the human body, and it's usually the site where gases. No, imagine it's a train station. It's where certain substances are exchanged. Basically, the word exchange is the key word. So yeah. Uh, Number five, transpiration. Uh, it's a chain reaction. Water evaporates from the stomata, and in turn, new water enters from the roots. So the entrance coming from the root, entrance from the roots, uh, it enters from the soil through osmosis. So that's again from number one. Okay, plant transport. I skipped that part. Okay. All right. Should I continue? Perhaps I'll make another video about this one. Double fertilization and angiosperms. But yeah, I hope this video has been as elaborate as possible. Uh, yeah, regardless of what I got in this exam, I did my best. And I'm very grateful that this reviewer has been properly established. Um, Even if it's really difficult make us to make it maintained as possible as it is right now. But yeah, next video, double fertilization in angiosperms. Thanks for watching.